Right. Josh McKinney. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, okay. There we go. I don't know what I did. I messed it up. I broke it.
I was messing with it actually earlier. When you weren't looking, I was unplugging stuff.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah. Dude, this is not necessarily the most relevant thing, but it's all like rainy and kind of super like mellow today, but it's been like so beautiful the past couple of days.
I know. I
Um,
woke up this morning and it was warm enough to wear a t-shirt, and so
y-
that's what I wore today. And it's not warm enough to wear a t-shirt when it's raining. So
yeah, dude, I'm not digging it. I'm not digging it. It makes me feel lazy. But I always just do my best every day to be as productive as possible. Um,
it's harder when it's raining, though.
yeah, yeah, man. Especially like if you don't have like a typical like 9 to 5 where you have to like get up every day and like go into an office.
That's true. That's one of the hardest parts about if you own your own business or building your own business is like it's really hard to say like, well, I could get away with not doing anything today. Nothing's gonna burn down. Everything will be good.
Yeah,
That's I always find that really hard, like to find that motivation to say, well, I know this has to be done.
yeah.
You
Because
know,
I mean that's where you're at, right? I mean, is so jujitsu is like you own like that's your life right now, right?
that is pretty much my life. I mean,
Like coaching and
like
you're running a school and
financially, it's my life. I do other stuff
well,
other than
right.
jiu-jitsu, but um, like that's kind of what I have two schools now.
Oh yeah?
We just opened a second school in Jerseyville, Illinois.
Okay.
Um, one of my
I saw
guys,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So like I've had my own school for a little over 3 years. And
And where is that at? Is that in Alton?
no, I'm in Pontoon Beach, Illinois.
Pontoon Beach.
Yes.
Okay.
So people sometimes get confused
I do.
because me and Adam Marburger, always been buddies, and we started the Headnod squad, the T-shirt company, together.
Right.
And then during that time, while that was still going, we I opened my own gym,
Right.
and we named it Headnod HQ. Okay,
Yeah.
and so like really didn't have any affiliation. It was just we didn't have a name,
Oh.
and so we literally went like a month without having a name. And do you know Chad Hawkins?
Yes.
Yeah. So Chad had come over one day and he's like, well, why isn't this gym called Head Nod Squad? And so that was what we were going to call it. And then it turned into Head Nod HQ. And that was
Okay.
just kind of, that kind of stuck. But that's in Pontoon Beach.
Okay.
Adam's school is in Alton.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. He explained that to me some too. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so man, that's awesome. You just opened up the second one in Jerseyville, right?
Yes.
So
We literally started classes last Monday.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Man, it's such a grind opening a school, but I feel like if you do it the right way, it doesn't have to be super complicated.
it is. And like something that was really cool about being in that small of a town, because I think there's 14,000 people in the town. It's a pretty small town. And it's very much like, by itself. It's not like pressed up against other cities and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's very much there is farms around it.
Yeah.
And one thing that was really cool was how welcoming the whole community was.
Yeah.
Like we went into the school district, like the school district office or whatever, and said, "Hey, we wanted to put up this flyer." The lady looked at it and she goes, "Oh, well, we have a lot of rules about putting up flyers. Your phone number's not even on it. How would they contact you?" So they had us put our phone number on. She goes, "Well, if you print 1,700 of them, we'll give them to every kid
Really?
in the school."
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
and it's just like, oh man,
You want to talk about like direct marketing? Like
yeah,
that's it right there.
and so like just the welcoming like of that community was really cool.
Yeah, man, and that's something that you would actually hope for, right?
Yeah.
Because of like, I mean, jujitsu's given me so much. I'm sure it's given you a lot as
hmm
well, right? So to be able to actually share that with the community, like that's got to be good.
Yeah, man, it really is, and it's something that you can go in and say, well, hey, I know, it's a business. I'm hoping to make money off of
Oh
this,
yeah.
but I know I am offering something that truly can help people.
Yeah, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with making money, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the more money you make at the end of the day, the more good you can do,
hmm
right? I mean, it's not like I mean, money really does just kind of reveal who you are.
That's so true.
Yeah.
For me, it's the more I can eat, but
I
yeah,
mean that works. That works
yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's one of my like my measurements of like my own personal success. I just want to be able to go to any restaurant and like not it doesn't matter what the cost is. Like just I want that.
Me and my best friend since like eighth grade have always talked about that. I remember like sitting like on the swing set at school and being like, yeah, man, one day we're going to be old enough and we're going to have ribeyes for dinner every night.
Oh,
You know, yeah,
that'd be
I
amazing.
know, right? That's the way to go. And then I was like, oh my gosh, $15 a pound, that's ridiculous.
It's like that's not very feasible. Oh man, that's funny, dude. Um, so I wanna go back to like what was your beginning for jujitsu? Like what got you into that?
So, well, first, I actually, I've listened to your show. I really, really do enjoy it.
Oh, thanks, dude.
Yeah, not like cliche, but I really do. I really enjoy it because, you've had a lot of my friends on, and so a lot of people I know, and so one thing I notice is most of the time when you ask that question to guys that do jiu-jitsu, they all have the same thing. It's, well, I wanted to be an MMA fighter. I wanted to do martial arts and,
Yeah.
kind of discover jiu-jitsu. My story is nothing like that.
Well, let's
So
go through it, man.
when I was 6 or 7, my dad said like, it, found the UFC. He really enjoyed it, and we would do some like self-defense type stuff in our garage. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't, it was just like anything else for me. It was just something we did on Tuesdays, right?
Okay.
And my dad actually trained at Vaggies for about a year during that time.
Okay. Yeah.
And he just kind of fell away with it, and it wasn't just wasn't a big deal or anything, and went to about like 13 or 14, and I was overweight.
Okay.
My mom basically said like, hey, and we had tried sports and stuff. They always were trying to get me into sports. I always hated them.
What kind of kid were you? What did you like to
I
do?
like to play video games. I
Oh,
like to
okay.
play video games, watch TV, and I was very, very antisocial.
Really?
I did not want to hang out with people. Like
I would not guess that about you. You're so friendly.
I know, I get that a lot, and it's just like I was like as a kid, I was just very, very like respectful, chill, like not really into too much stuff. To be honest, I just I just enjoyed kind of
I'm listening to you.
yeah,
I'm
just
sorry.
enjoyed kind of like hanging out. That was pretty much all I did, and I got to, like I said, like 13, and really my mom was really pushing. Like she was the one, and my dad was too, but more my mom. She was really pushing. Like, you need to do something. We got to find something.
Yeah. So you didn't have a lot of friends? You just like
No.
by yourself
I
playing
didn't,
video games?
and I actually went to a really, really small private school, like 25 people small.
Okay.
And so I didn't really have a ton of friends outside of school either.
Okay.
Like I said, I referenced my best friend that we've been best friends like 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah.
Like, that pretty much was my only friend.
So you've always had like were you always like a very like small like tight
Yes,
circle?
very.
That's how I've always been too. I've always had like one or two really good friends. Like I've usually like known a lot of people at the school that I was in, but I only had like a couple real friends.
I've always been the same way.
Yeah.
And and like for that, like I didn't have a lot of friends.
Yeah. What games did you like to play?
I loved to play like Tekken. Tekken was really fun for me.
Tekken's my jam. Who's
Yeah.
your character?
I always played with Jin Kazama. I always had to be the good guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I was not very adventurous in my character choices.
I like King and Law. Like
See, that was cool. That was cool because you knew that like those guys were, like which one was Law was based like kind of on like Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
And so that was always really cool.
Yeah, he was a
'cause
bad dude, man.
He was.
He always did like that backflip, like wheel kick thing or whatever.
And I always liked he looked kind of like Jin, but he was the bad guy. He was
Was he like robotic?
No. He was the old guy's son. What is man, I haven't played Tekken in so long.
I don't know either.
But he had like a spin kick that you could just do over
and over again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're
And that
talking
was
about.
so hard to play against. So
Yeah.
winning
Yeah.
was also important too,
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that probably still carries over today. Like
Yeah.
you're a competitive dude, right? I mean, in jiu-jitsu anyway.
I don't feel like I'm overly
Not like overly competitive, but I mean, you compete because you want to win.
I do. I
Right.
compete because I compete because I enjoy it, man.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy it even when I lose though. Like I want to win.
It's not the most important thing by any means.
Yeah, I mean I want to, injure everybody I go with, but that really for me it's I just have fun with it.
Yeah.
I just really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But
But anyway, you're 13.
yeah, so I'm 13, 14 and the Hit Squad opened up.
Okay.
And
What year was that?
that would have been 2008.
Okay.
So yeah, the Hit Squad opens up, and my mom was like, "Hey, you guys watch the UFC. Someone just told me that Matt Hughes opened up a gym in Granite City. We lived in Madison, which is right next to Granite City. The hit squad is probably 5 minutes from my house.
Okay.
And so we decided to go in. We drove up, and I was just, my dad, he didn't really have any plan of doing it. It was just, going to be me. And I really didn't want to do it, but I wasn't super, like, I didn't give a lot of, like, I wasn't resisting it either. You know what I mean? I was just kind of like, I'll
Going for the ride.
yeah, I was just, and that's just kind of how I always was. I was
You're
like,
that kid. So
yeah.
I've been teaching kids jujitsu for 2 years now, and I know that kid.
Yes, and I was that kid. And
Like, I'm here, man.
And I was just like, yeah, I'm there because my mom makes me, like that was what my thought process was.
Yeah.
I go in, they only had adult classes. They didn't have kid classes. And Kyle, and I was, even though I was overweight, I was still kind of small for my age too.
Yeah.
And, like Kyle met us, when we first, Watson.
Kyle Watson.
Yeah, and so
because that's what brought him to St. Louis.
yes, he was the jiu-jitsu coach there. We talked to him for a second, like, hey, do you think it's okay that, I try class because I'm a little smaller, and he's like, well, we'll see. Within
You were 13, right?
I was 14.
14,
So
okay.
within the first 10 minutes of class, I was like, I'm gonna do this forever.
Oh, yeah?
And it was literally like you don't find that a lot, right? You don't
yeah.
find that with things like people say, I looked across the room and I saw her and I
Oh,
said
yeah.
that's gonna be my wife.
You knew it.
That was what it was. It's like I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this forever now. And I had thought that I was gonna do one night a week, and as soon as I walked back to, they had it, like the whole matted area is a cage. I walked over to my dad who was watching, and I was like, I want to do this all the time. And he goes, I want to do it too. And so he and I both signed up. He actually had a hernia at the time, and so he had signed up without even being able to train.
Oh, yeah.
And
he
so
just knew.
so he got the surgery, and we both have been training together ever since.
Wow. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, and you both are black belts now.
Yes, he got his like 6 months before me.
Okay.
So he was, he, like I said, he was a little bit ahead of me when he started, because he did train for about a year before.
Yeah, and that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, have
And
that body awareness. And
For sure. And I wasn't like, even though I loved it, I had a lot of fun, I wasn't like naturally gifted with it. I wasn't like the guy that was like, oh man,
Yeah.
this kid's something special. He just absorbs so much.
Prodigy.
I was just always there.
yeah,
You know,
just put in the work.
Yeah, and that was what it was. It was just,
Yeah.
that was, like I said, I didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah, man. It's funny, man, because some people never find that thing for themselves. And then also, like, how many times can you really, like, think back and we all have these moments to where you can kind of pinpoint a certain, like, decision that you made that really changed the rest of your life. And for me, I always talk about, like, it was wrestling for me. Like, that was my first, like, introduction to grappling, if you will, because I did that in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew, like, that actually set me down the whole path of, like, going into fighting, which led me to pursue jiu-jitsu, which I'll say I'm going to do jiu-jitsu until I die. So it was like, that was a very, like, pivotal decision in my life.
Did you when did you start wrestling?
In freshman year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was just because a buddy was going out for it, and he convinced me because he wanted to have like one of his
of
friends
course.
come, right? So he's like, dude, it'll help you get better for football. And I was like, yeah, it probably will make me like quicker because like you have to like explode off a whistle.
Uh-huh.
So like I reasoned it that way.
Yeah.
And then it was one of those things, like as soon as I started, I'm like, oh, I love this. Like this is it. Like, I was way better at wrestling than I was football.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was definitely like the catalyst for the rest of everything.
Do you still wrestle? Like, do you still pure wrestling? Do you still wrestle at all?
No, not really. Not like I should,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. It was one of those things, maybe it was just because, I don't know, maybe like laziness. Like once I got into MMA, I always, like we did a lot of wrestling. So there was some days where it was just straight wrestling, or we'd have just like moments of practice where it was just straight wrestling. But it was like always my base. So I was always a little bit more focused on getting better at those other things. So I try to keep it at like a certain level of proficiency, but I was always kind of focused on the other things.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then I just fell in love with jiu-jitsu. So like post fighting, it's just like I just rather just do jiu-jitsu because there's just more to that. You know what I mean? Like wrestling, there's a certain beauty in it, but there's just so many like layers to jiu-jitsu, man.
There is, and wrestling can be hard on your body too, man.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of banging.
In jiu-jitsu, you can be lazy and
Yeah.
still beat everybody else.
That's true.
But like
that is so true. You can flow roll. Like there's a lot of
you
ways to
can.
train.
Yeah, and so that's something I do love about jiu-jitsu. It's just
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So, like when did you first like compete? Like when did you get into the competing
So
scene?
I competed about 4 months into training, okay? And again, I can't stress this enough. I was not a natural, okay? I just wasn't, and it wasn't because it wasn't like a lack of athletic ability. It was a lack of ever having done anything.
Yeah.
And so I had so much trouble with intensity.
Okay.
I just not who I was. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to hurt anybody.
You're just too chill.
Yeah, and so I went out for my first competition, and it really did get me focused. Kyle actually had a super fight in Ohio, and he's like, "Hey, if anybody wants to compete, you guys should try." And
Was
so
it like an Arnold's or something?
it was the Ohio Grappling Challenge. It's still a
Okay.
tournament. I think it's called the American Grappling Challenge now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he had said like, "Hey, you should, you guys should do it." And so I got ready and I was gonna do it. And so, it really got me focused. I dieted for it. I think I weighed 129 for it. Okay, so like back then, with jiu-jitsu, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, you had to drive 8 hours to compete. And you drive 8 hours to compete, and you're not going to fight people that are in your weight class.
It's just like close enough.
That's just how it goes. I'm 14. I fight a kid that's 17 that has amateur MMA fights and weighs like 165.
Oh, wow.
So he's like 35 pounds. We go out. He puts me in an armbar really quick. I get out, and we fight for a little bit. I ended up losing by an armbar. But that fight totally changed it for me.
Yeah.
It was my next match. I got to fight for third, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go fight now. I get it now. Everything clicked. Like, obviously, like it's not like, oh, this guy's trying to kill me, but he is.
In a way, yeah. I mean, it's what we're simulating.
Exactly.
So what was going through your head in that first match? Like, what was the progression for you? Like, do you remember it?
I do. I remember getting out because they, like they always do with kids divisions, that was like one of the first things. Kyle's super fight is going on, and I hear my name.
Okay.
And I'm like looking around like, what is, I walk over, and then all of a sudden I'm on the mat, and this kid, I'm like, there's no way I'm fighting this kid that, is
Bigger
a foot
and
taller
older.
than me and has a beard, there's no way. And I end up, like, okay, this is I guess this is it. And I remember thinking in like my third, I was in a bunch of arm bars in it, and I ended up getting out of a lot of them. And I remember thinking like, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
Like I am having so much fun right now, even though like nothing good was happening for me. I was just having a good time.
Like the first time you've ever been like in like a sort of like that type of like challenge?
I feel like yeah, it was. I mean, because
It's a lot of adversity.
it is, and it's you are, it's just you and somebody else. Like I played like park league basketball when I was a kid. That was one of like the only other sports that I actually committed to playing. I had some fun playing that. But I was just so much smaller than all the other kids. It was really hard for me. So, in playing on a team, if you didn't feel comfortable taking a shot, you could just pass the ball to somebody.
Yeah, it's easy to hide in the crowd, right?
It is.
You're very exposed whenever you're like it's just you and another person out there in the middle of the mat. Like it can feel very vulnerable.
It really can, and it's and like it can be really intimidating, or it can just be like you can crave that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like there's a lot of controlled chaos in a very small space there, and if you've never been in competition, like it can get very chaotic, and like your emotions can fly very high.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's like for me now, that was the hardest thing that I dealt with competing in jiu-jitsu was it was so hard for me to understand, like, okay, this guy likes to listen to heavy metal before he competes. He likes to go, so that's what I should try to do. Okay, no, that didn't work. This guy does this. And so I had to find what worked for me.
Yeah, trying to find yourself.
Yeah, and so, like, just what I listen to, what I think, and, having a really good routine before I go and compete.
What's that routine look like?
Mine is like my routine probably starts like 2 weeks before a tournament.
Okay.
Like, mindset wise, I don't overly focus on like training camp because I try to be really consistent with training.
Yeah.
and with and with what my weight's at and stuff too. I generally don't like to cut weight or anything like that. I like to just
Yeah, I don't like to cut weight if I'm not getting paid.
yeah. Even if I was getting paid, I don't want to cut weight, man. I
Yeah,
just hate doing it.
yeah.
And it's just not something. And I like because then a lot of times for me, the times that I would do it to compete, I would cut weight and that would be my focus. And I would make weight and I would be like, finally I made weight and like, oh wait, I have to go compete.
Yeah.
And so that was always hard. And then like, I compete at BJJ a lot and you weigh in and then walk on the mat for your first match.
Yeah. So I would never cut weight in that sense. So I'm leaving next week. I'm going down to Austin for the On It Open.
Yeah.
And the weight class, like the max is like 185. So I normally walk around probably about like 92.
Yeah.
So like all I've done is just like cleaned up my diet. And actually I got really heavy there for a second, so I needed to do it anyway. But like I lost like 7 pounds of fat. So it's like I'm technically cutting, I guess, but it's just like all I'm doing is just like cleaning up my diet, which I should be doing anyway. Like I'm just walking at a healthier weight.
Yeah, I think that's huge, man. I think just being able to because you can train more when you're when you're at a healthier weight.
Yeah, just your output's there and it's just you're healthier. So, I mean, it's not like a bad thing. But those people who like, I've seen people like actually cut for jiu-jitsu. I'm like, why are you doing that?
I totally agree, man.
Yeah, they're sucking themselves in, they're starving themselves, dehydration. It's like, I don't understand.
Yeah, so I totally agree. I'm pretty anti, even with my guys, is like, they compete, locally too, even, like, dude, don't. Just compete at what you weigh at. If you lose because of 5 pounds, you probably would have lost if you made 149.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that can usually be really big with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. What weight do you typically compete at? What do you walk around
So
at?
I have pretty much the last like 3 or 4 years I compete at 181 in the gi.
Okay.
The last 2 times that I've competed, I've done 194 and a half. That's because the weight class are pretty big.
Yeah.
So I've been doing the medium heavyweight, and I really like how I feel like I can train more a little heavier. At that weight. I feel like when the last time, and like it just I just turned 25. I think you do kind of put on a little more muscle at that age, but at least from what I hear from people and stuff, and I think that's just kind of happened. It's made it really hard for me. I could still definitely do 181, but I just don't know if I could train as hard and as often as I do and walk around it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to listen to your body and kind of, I mean, as you're growing, right? I mean, your body's developing, and yeah, most guys like hit a growth spurt, right? So I mean, you put on more muscle and you just start kind of coming into like your grown man strength and,
yes,
and whatnot.
for sure.
Yeah, so
for sure.
And you'll still even, I don't think really guys, we don't really hit our physical prime until like late 20s, early 30s. You even see that a lot in, like the UFC.
That's what I've always read, and I've always thought about, and kind of thought about like how do I plan out competing. You know what I mean? Like, because it's hard to compete and put all your focus, especially like black belt adult. It's hard to compete at black belt adult and run a school, and run businesses, right? And so it's yes, you really have to be smart about your focus. So I kind of been battling back and forth with, okay, do I right now at 25, knowing that my athletic prime is probably a few years from now, really put into competing really hard at this point? Or do I wait a couple of years where I really can build my business and automate my business a lot to, really start hitting it at
I mean,
at that age?
Yeah, because those are both good thoughts, right? Because if you really build the business that can actually like free up the time and the mental space to really focus on
and
like,
pay for travel and stuff.
Yeah, and you're not really missing anything. But on that same, I mean, because you're still going to be competing and still stuff along the way. But on that same note, it's like, all right, well, if I give everything into the competition, it's like jiu-jitsu is really at this place to where you can really make a living off of jiu-jitsu on the competing, like on the competition circuit.
Yes, definitely.
Sponsorships and just with social, like you have a good reach too on social, so like it like you could totally build like a living with that alone.
Yeah, I know. So it is it's and I don't know, and I think like with jiu-jitsu, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer.
You know what I mean? And I could
overwhelmed with opportunity.
Exactly. And that's, it's a funny thing to complain about, like, man, I have 2 really cool ways that I could really direct my life, and like, so I think it's, it's exciting to have that, I think.
Oh, dude, that's fantastic. So, all right, I kind of took you off a little off track. You start preparing mentally 2 weeks
So
out.
yeah, so 2 weeks out, the big things that I really try to focus on
Yeah.
is staying positive with everything.
Yeah, positivity is so key.
And so I found that like I try my best to avoid people that are just naturally negative.
Yeah, I cut those people out of my life.
And so you try your best to avoid those, especially when it's directly related to jiu-jitsu. Okay?
Yeah. Do you experience that often, or?
Sometimes you just and I feel like I'm pretty positive, like over the top. So any little bit, and I notice it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, like oh man, my my rash guard bled into my gi. Dang it! I'm like, hey man, I don't need that negativity. Stay away from me. Your gi looks cool. It's all red now. But I think for me, it's just like really try to do that, and then like I also never feed into it, especially during that time. During those 2 weeks, I'm really conscious of if somebody says something negative, I don't respond at all. I'm not going to be part of that conversation. I will not respond to that. And then I also the music that I listen to.
Yeah.
I really try to not listen to anything heavy. Like anything heavy, I really try to just focus on that. And I also try to not focus on my business at that point. Not obviously, I'm still teaching my classes. I'm still focused on my students. But when it comes to like building my business and my advertising and things, I kind of just do everything that's automated. I just let everything kind of fall into place with that. And then as I get there, I really focus on eating a good meal the night before and getting enough sleep. That night before is huge. So like if it comes to travel, I always try to take the direct flight so I can get in early, I can eat, and I can relax and sleep.
Yeah, sleep is crucial.
Yes. And so like, I try to, I have a, like nightly ritual, and I try to keep it for, even when I'm off traveling, competing.
Yeah. What's the ritual?
So every night I will just I'll do like chamomile tea.
Okay.
I love chamomile, and I can't say it's always chamomile. I really like there's this ginger turmeric tea from Trader Joe's.
Okay.
And turmeric's supposed to be really good for inflammation.
Yep, anti-inflammatory.
And so I really it's not as enjoyable because I don't put anything in it. I just do the tea.
Yeah.
The ginger turmeric can be pretty like spicy almost.
It can.
And
yeah.
so I really like it though. But I do some type of like tea. Sometimes we'll just do like lemon water or something like that, like hot lemon water or something like that. But just something like that.
Something to relax you.
Melatonin, and I take a shower.
Okay.
And so even if it's just a really quick shower, and I like to do like the cold shower thing before bed.
Okay.
I can't say I do that every time because sometimes I'm just like so like beat up after training, and I just like my mind just says, screw it, we're just gonna take a hot shower.
It's nice and relaxing. I like to do the cold showers in the morning.
Yeah, and see, I do too, but that night, man, at night it knocks me out. If I know I'm gonna have trouble sleeping, or if I'm having trouble sleeping, I will get back up and take a cold shower.
Well, that makes sense because like our body, like our core temperature kind of falls like when we sleep, so that will actually help it.
Yeah, and it puts you in that place.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much my nightly routine.
Yeah.
My wife and I actually always pray together before we go to sleep.
Okay.
And so if I'm out of town, I'll always call her. We'll pray, and then go to bed and wake up refreshed in the morning.
Yeah.
Always drink my black coffee in the morning. That is my first
thing, not water.
First thing, not water. Just
oh man.
First, it is a crawl to the stove. I do pour over coffee, and and like that's one of my favorite things.
That's your jam, huh?
Yep. So drink my coffee. I read in the morning, and then and I keep that all the same, just like for when I'm competing, just because like I said, I don't like to be out of my routine. Go in to compete, I try to again I actually always listen to the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack before I compete. That's my favorite one. I just have a really simple warm up. I jog, push up, squats, and then just do some movements. I like it if I have like a training partner or something there, because I can just like warm up my grips on their gi. That's always really nice, just to grab like lapels, grab sleeves, just because sometimes when you don't do that, you get that first grip broken, and it like
Oh, it hurts.
Yeah, it hurts,
Sore.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hurts.
Kind of rubs your knuckles. Do you like to do pocket grip?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, me
And
too.
so, and that, like, yeah, and mine are so calloused. They're
Oh
not.
yeah.
Yeah, they're fine. They're not gonna run into that. But like, and then, go out when I compete. I don't do any kind of weird, like, you always see people do like touching the mat or like, like just a certain thing. I don't have any routine like that. I try to walk out as normal as I can.
Yeah.
And slap hands and go.
Okay, I can dig it. Do you do any visualization?
I'm not super big on visualization because it gives me anxiety.
Oh yeah.
I just noticed that, and like I visualize positions, but like I hear people that like to visualize their entire match.
Yeah,
And
I've done that with fights.
in that, like, the reason it gives me anxiety is because there's so many variables.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my whole entire visualization may be me getting a takedown, okay? And so I'm up two, and so now I need to play a game this way, and that's my visualization. The guy pulls guard, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, this is not what we've planned for, And so, like, I like to just, man, I love to just go out and flow when I compete.
Yeah.
And you always should have a game plan, I think, but so a lot of times my game plan just goes out the window, and okay, I'm just gonna do me.
Yeah,
all right?
it often goes out the window. I like to pull guard actually. I don't know why. It's not taught. Like
I'm the same way, man. And I don't like to pull guard because I don't like stand up. I like to pull guard because my guard's better than my top game.
that's how I feel. I feel like I feel so dangerous from my guard, and I feel like
Mhm.
it's actually pretty tough to pass my guard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like I'd rather just pull guard, and it's almost just like wasted energy to try to get that takedown.
Well, and then say you pull guard, like I can immediately finish from guard.
Yeah.
If I take you down to guard, like I have to now open your guard, pass, and
Yeah.
before I can start to finish.
Yeah, I've gotten stuck in someone's guard before, and it's like the whole match was just me trying to break their guard.
I've trust me, I've dealt with that
I'm just
quite
like,
a few
what is
times.
this nonsense?
And it's boring, and it's like, man, I don't. And then you never know how, like, especially if it's going to go to a ref's decision, how the ref is going to judge that. Like,
Yeah.
that can be really frustrating.
Yeah, yeah. What's your diet like? I know you say you like to eat everything, but
I am an intermittent faster.
are you?
Yes, so that's like, I'm right now. I am. What time is it? Is it like
It's 2:30 or almost 3. It's
Okay.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock? I think I am probably like 28 hours on a 32-hour fast.
Nice.
Okay, so I really like fasting. Funny thing about fasting is it's kind of like being a vegan, CrossFit, or not watching Game of Thrones. You have to tell everybody about it. Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, here's me telling you about fasting. So
Yeah.
I have done fasting since 2011. I did Pan Ams and competing in it, and that was just like we experimented with the diet. My dad's always been a personal trainer.
Okay.
So we've always experimented with diets. And so that was one that we started experimenting with, and it was just the one that stuck. And so for me, I really enjoy it because I can eat at night and I can go to bed full.
Yeah.
That's
So you only eat one meal a day?
generally, yeah.
Okay.
So on Tuesdays, my wife and I will completely take off our diets because we're both off on Tuesdays.
Okay.
And then it's just open season. But generally, I may eat twice, but usually I still only eat once that day too. So
Yeah.
I'm just in the habit of it so much.
So is it just like a really big meal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is like because people think like, oh man, there's no way I could eat enough in that one meal.
You surely
Like,
can.
I can eat enough in that one meal.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and-
Yeah, I usually eat twice a day, but I usually have my first meal at noon.
Okay.
But yeah, there are tons of benefits to fasting,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just for the simple fact, like if somebody doesn't even fast every day, but just to eat like quarterly, like give your digestion system a break.
I agree,
Like I
man.
can feel it. Like you can feel full. Like you can feel this. Oh man, like you're holding on to all this food, like in
Mm-hmm.
in your intestines. Just like it doesn't feel good.
Right now I can like at like 28 I can really feel like I'm hungry. I would love to eat right now. I actually stopped at the gas station. I needed gas, walked in, used the bathroom, and I walked by the donuts, and I was like, I could just eat like 12 of those. That would be awesome. And I could definitely eat, but I really feel good. So like I'll go all the way till tonight. I'll have class at 6, and I'll teach, and then I'll roll with everybody. And it will, that's what, like, one of the best nights of rolling that I ever get is that, like, in that 30-hour range of.
Really?
Yeah, I just feel really good, just like almost feel really focused when I roll.
You ever get those moments to where, and I can only assume it's like because there's probably some fluctuation with blood glucose or something, but um, you're like stand up and get a little lightheaded because you
I
haven't eaten in like a day or so.
I don't notice that as much. I get like the one thing that I notice, and I actually can feel it right now, is that my muscles literally feel hungry.
Yeah, a
Like
little fatigued.
I notice like my
Yeah,
biceps and my quads, like the bigger muscles,
like
like
it's more labored to walk.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
oh man, it would be really nice to have a candy bar right now.
Yeah, yeah, but there's a certain like level of discipline there that really like strengthens the mind.
I think that's huge, and I think that like we've done like 48-hour fasts and stuff like, and I really only do them because just see if I can.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I've only gone 72 hours, maybe just over 72 hours is my
Uh
longest
huh.
one.
And yeah, and so you do those in like I have a guy that once a year that I train. I do personal training. He's older. He does like a 30-day fast.
Really?
Yeah, and he literally does it I forget what month it is. Maybe man,
Does he
it
go
might,
somewhere to do that? Like, is it like
he
medically
he works during that time
for
and like
30 days?
30 days.
How is that
And
possible?
so maybe it's 28. Maybe he does it during February.
Either way,
But yeah, either way, those 2 days really are. You know what I mean?
that's a long time.
And yeah, and he does it every year.
Wow,
And
just that one time.
yep, just that one time, and that's the only time he fasts. But
Yeah.
I
Wow.
don't train him very hard during that
No,
during that period.
definitely not, dude. Oh, so you're also a trainer, huh?
Yeah, so I started like personal training was my only source of income. I've never actually like had a real job.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
real job is arbitrary.
Yeah, and so like I've never, I did personal training and as soon as I got out of high school, because my dad owned a business, and like I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my passion. It wasn't what I loved to do,
Yeah.
and and see like I enjoyed a lot of the people I dealt with, but then there were just some that were just draining.
Very draining, dude. The
And
negativity, they don't follow through.
yeah,
They blame you if they don't get results.
yeah,
And
and
it's just like,
it's
man.
hard. And like in jiu-jitsu, I can just beat those people down, and they have to be good with it.
Yeah.
But like, like yeah, this is helping you, but
Yeah. Like as a white belt, your job is to survive.
but it's like, I did that till I opened my school. When I
Okay.
opened my school, I think I was 21 when I opened my school, and I still did personal training, and that made it really hard to train because I was just doing too much.
Yeah.
And then slowly I've gotten away from personal training, and now I probably do like 6 or 7 hours a week of personal training. It's just really, and it's all really easy. It's people I've trained for a long time. I don't really do any new clients or anything.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Training can be very draining.
It can. Any individual, like, one-on-one can be
Yeah. I
draining.
mean, that direct, trade of time and money can be very draining.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Just the demands.
I think with the, I always just notice there are just certain points, like when I get to, because are you familiar with like 20 minutes to fitness?
No.
Okay, so it's just like it's a high intensive training protocol, and so there's really short high intensity workouts, only strength training.
Okay.
And so that's what we do. So we do 15-minute workouts. So what happens in those is like you are seeing 20 something people in just in 5 or 6 hours. And so it is really draining to see that many people and have an individual conversation
That's
with
a
each
lot. Yeah.
one. And yeah, I just noticed that like it was so draining for me. And now like, I see that many people in an hour, but it's at a jiu-jitsu class, so it's like it's just much easier on me mentally
Yeah.
to teach jiu-jitsu like that.
Oh yeah, and if that's more your passion.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh man, I'm surprised to hear you say that you drink coffee before you drink water in the morning.
Oh,
You're a
dude.
personal trainer.
I love it. I love it. That is just my
Gotta hydrate your organs, bro.
that's my coffee is the lifeblood that fuels champions,
Unicorn's blood.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I can't say that I don't drink any water before because I do like a gallon of water a day.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that
You're
there
well
are days
hydrated.
that I do drink it, but
I'm just
yeah.
giving you a hard time.
yeah, I'm not. But yeah, I would say most days I am coffee first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, and I noticed you distinguish the pour over coffee.
I love pour over. Have you ever tried pour over coffee?
No, I haven't, to be honest with you. I do a French press.
Yeah, see, like, I always tell people, like, Jiu Jitsu will change their lives. Jiu Jitsu's fine, man. Pour over coffee will change your life. My wife always did a French press,
Yeah.
and then she also always had a Keurig, okay?
I had a Keurig at first. I got rid of that.
So those were her two things. So when we got married, she's like, yeah, I'm going to bring, these two things into our lives. And I was like, you can try, but it's not going to, I promise, you are not going to use them. We threw away the Keurig after a month, and we have never used the French press.
What?
Dude, the pour over, there is just something different about like the open air of the pour over that keeps it from burning. It is just the smooth. Do you drink your coffee? How do you drink your coffee?
Yeah, I drink just black.
Okay, so yeah, if you drink coffee black, I feel like if you put more stuff into it, it's not as big of a difference. But if you drink coffee black,
Yeah.
it makes such a big difference.
Although, no, I lied because I guess it's not technically black because like I'll add like collagen. It's not flavored though.
Yeah.
And then often it does have some flavor to it. I'll add some lion's mane mushroom.
Yeah.
Just the powder because like it's so good for your brain.
Do you notice a difference with that?
Yeah, it keeps me sharp.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
I've looked into that. I actually know a guy that grows it, and
Oh yeah.
I've just
The science is there, man. It
Yeah.
it definitely aids in the brain, 100%. So I do a lot of different things to try to help with just like just mental cognition. And
Yeah.
so my daughter, she was diagnosed real young, like on the autism spectrum. So that kind of sent me down this rabbit hole of like studying and like how to improve the brain function.
Yeah, man.
And Lion's Mane has a lot of research to prove that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I should. I know I want to try it. The thing about me is once I try it, I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
like forever.
It's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'll definitely try that.
I'll definitely do it. Yeah, I order it from this company out in California called Organic Mushrooms. So it's one of those things like with anything, especially supplementation wise, like you have to be careful of sourcing. Like
Yeah.
it's the utmost important. So this is like it's not overseas, like it's here in the US, like in California, and it's all organic, and it's like they're in Carlsbad, so it's like it's a really good like I think they operate in a GMP facility, I do believe. So
that's cool.
it's just all good sourcing. And I get it from like Swanson Vitamins is where I order it from. It's like I don't know, like $38 for like this little container that I get, and it lasts for a couple months.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not bad. I always thought it was gonna be more expensive.
It's not crazy expensive. It just comes in a powder. I like to mix it even in like my ground beef or something and cook
Really?
it. Yeah, just try to find different ways to incorporate it, man.
Yeah, I
It's a
love
little brain food.
love mushroom powder. I have a ton of oyster mushrooms that are dried at my house, and I
Yeah.
powder them, and you can mix that in anything. man.
Yeah, you really can, dude. It's good stuff. Sometimes I get real basic with it though, and so I do a lot of work with this company, Jumbo Superfoods. They're
Yeah.
a sponsor of the show, and I put in their CBD stuff in my coffee too.
Oh my gosh, you were like,
Sometimes I get a little crazy with it.
yeah, man. You wake up, you drink your water, and then have your coffee. You were the healthiest guy.
It's just
man.
like brain food. Well, CBD is good for your brain too, and it tastes like
I
cinnamon.
do CBD.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Crap, I don't remember what the company that I go through with must not be working very well. It's just whoever I want to say it's Now Products. I want to say that's what we get most of our stuff through, and we've always
from Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've always gone through them for most of our supplements from the gym.
Yeah, I use their spirulina and chlorella.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's organic. It's broken cell,
Yeah.
cell wall. Yeah, I don't know. I digress. I'll geek out on this kind of stuff, dude. I don't know. I just love like nutrition. and
I
all
do
that.
too, man. It's really interesting. I just hate, like I hate when I get into it because I'm like, well, I need to take everything.
Yeah.
And like I think sometimes it's just better to be like, okay,
I try to
know,
keep it simple.
yeah, do what you can.
Yeah.
I think that's like, because I listen to I like to listen to like Timothy Ferriss, like his podcast.
Oh yeah.
And he every single time he's talking, he's like, oh yeah, I've been doing this. You should try this. I'm like, man, I should try that, shouldn't I?
You could try it all. Yeah, but what he doesn't tell you is that he only tries it for like a couple weeks.
Yeah,
and then
and he does.
It
yeah.
doesn't always stick.
And then every once in a while, he'll be like, oh, this is one that I've done for a few months. I'm like, oh man, it must be great. I'll do that too.
Yeah. Are you meditating?
Yes, exactly.
I need to start meditating now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Dude, that's
Jiu-Jitsu's meditation for me though.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
People call it like your flow state and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Like that's totally. I think any art can be like that.
Oh, anything, yeah.
I think that's a really cool thing about jiu-jitsu is it's art. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
something. Yeah, it does have maybe certain like things that are shown to you, but you have to make them your own.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite part is like any hobby that I have is something that is like art based.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's art, but then it's also like a language. Movement is a language.
for sure.
And for me, it's something I've kind of like I've worked through this thought. It's like for me, movement was like actually probably the first language that I learned that was like I don't know, it just felt like second nature. It was just like the most comfortable language for me, I guess is probably
Yeah.
like because we all learned to like speak in whatever tongue or whatnot, but then like movement was like that first language for me, and then for me like the first movement language I really learned was wrestling.
Uh huh.
So like everything that I do, especially in like jujitsu or any movements I see, I automatically like equate it to wrestling.
Yep.
So like especially in the fitness community, right? Somebody will take a movement and they'll put a title on it and then they'll market it and they'll sell it. But it's just like to me, like I'm like, all right, well that's just a hip heist,
Uh huh.
or like that's just like a kick out turnover, like whatever it is. But it's just movement at the
I
end of the day.
I do this. I was watching this video on YouTube today. Uh, there's this guy named Brad Leone. He has a cooking show. I love cooking, and he's just really personable. So they have him do different stuff. So they had him go try pottery. And I'm watching him do pottery, and the guy kept saying, lock your elbow like right by your hip, so to kind of. And I was like, oh yeah, you're just building the frame with your hip, Brad. Why don't you know that? Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, like I think, like being able to just understand your own body mechanics is so important.
Oh yeah,
You
so
know,
many people don't.
that's true, man. That's like when you have a kid that's like 17 come into jiu-jitsu, they're still in school. A lot of times they play sports, so they still do have that kind of like that ability to learn, and they're aware of their own body.
Yeah.
Somebody who's in their 30s or 40s that hasn't done anything in the last 12 years, they usually have lost their ability to learn. So that's the first thing you have to do is like, okay, we got to remind you how to learn stuff again.
Yeah.
And then, you got to know your left hand from your right hand without thinking about it.
Yeah, man, you got to create those pathways again. There's neural connections between your mind and your muscles.
You do. And people, man, that's just like, but that's why like, the first 6 months for people, there's not really a ton of progress. And then all of a sudden, anything you show them, they can do.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, even though it's not perfect the way they do it, they can understand it. I can show a move. I don't have to explain it. This is how the movement works. And okay, I can do that.
Yeah, things just start clicking.
And so, yeah, those, the more you learn, the easier it is to learn.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. That's so true. That's something I learned. Like I wasn't like a big book reader growing up, but I had a job at one point. I was like working third shift security, and I was just reading a ton.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, man, I just really enjoyed like learning and reading. It's like it's so crazy, but it's like the more you do it, the better you get at it, and then you just learn to enjoy it.
The same thing happened to me. I literally, and I've always, like doing jiu-jitsu, I've always learned more from jiu-jitsu, but like I just a few years ago started reading, and like never had. My dad would always, he used to always tell me readers are leaders.
Oh,
And that was
absolutely.
something that he would always push. I just never liked to read.
Yeah.
And like I want to say for me, like when I was younger, it was just because it was just uninteresting. But then as I got older, like I didn't have time. But as I started reading, I started, learning a lot about automating things, a lot about making myself have time. And then I actually had time to read and to do those things.
Did
that
you
I
read the
really
4 Hour Work Week?
I love the 4 Hour Work Week. That was literally like the first
that
book
it?
that got me into reading.
Okay.
One of my students had said, "Hey, have you ever read this book?" It's like, no. And the guy said, "Yeah, he does jujitsu. It's a really good book." I'm like, "Oh, he does jujitsu. I guess I'll read it." I read that, and I actually had a client come in like, this is a personal training client, came in like a month ago, and he goes, "Josh, I read this book, and it really reminds me of how you like do stuff." I go, "Oh, what's the book?" He goes, "It's called the 4 Hour Work Week." And I was like, "Yeah, I've read that a bunch, and that's there's a reason it reminds you of like how I live my life."
Yeah, because like it's helped you build it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's something actually I've really based a lot of my business on is that book specifically.
Yeah, man. I recently read it. Like I listened to his podcast for a real long time,
Uh-huh.
and then I finally actually got around to reading his book. And man, yeah, there's a lot of really good tips in there
There
on how to
there
build your
really
life.
is, and it's honestly, the book is really offensive to a lot of people though.
Really?
People that like that I talk to get really offended by, like, if you don't work 40 hours a week.
Yeah, dude. It's completely counter like culture.
Yeah, it is. It's like it is morally wrong to not work 40 hours a week in a lot of people's mind. And so if you start talking to them and they will start, like, and you say, well, why? Well, because you have to, like, but why?
It's such an arbitrary number, right?
It is, and
Yeah.
it's really odd that it has to be, about half of your waking life or a third of your waking life if you take, or including the weekends. But
Yeah.
usually the weekends you're sleeping the whole time if you work that. And I don't like, there are some people, like, reference to my best friend again. He literally is the only person that I know that loves to work. Like, literally his, in like, I love to teach Jiu Jitsu, but like when it comes to what I would consider like work, not my favorite stuff in the world.
Yeah.
And he just is the type of person that loves to
Hmm.
work, and like,
Yeah. And some of it can be weird with that word work, though, right?
yes,
Because it's like,
exactly.
what do you define as work?
Yeah,
Because some people, I mean, some people who just say like their job is to go teach jujitsu, they would consider that teaching part work.
yeah. And it's like,
But you
man,
don't.
that's so much fun. Like, that's,
Exactly. And
yeah.
like when you work for yourself and you're building your own business, like you actually end up probably working far more than 40 hours a week.
You really do.
Yeah. Everything
Especially,
combined.
yeah, especially when you're thinking about like how much you have to think about things.
Yeah.
That like a lot went in for me to make the decision to open a school in Jerseyville. It's a really intimidating thought process for me because I was like,
Go
well,
from 1 to 2, man. That's the
yeah,
biggest step for
and
a business.
I'm not gonna be there. That's like,
You gotta trust people.
yeah, and I really did try to focus on, taking my gym and saying like, I actually have different people teaching classes and me not be there. And that's really important for them to feel comfortable teaching the class. If I'm there looking over like, hey, you're going to teach the class, but I'm going to be watching you and critiquing what you do,
Yeah.
like me saying, look, I trust you enough to do this. That was really, really, that was really important for that first step to Jerseyville. I had a guy that's been with me since the beginning. He's always been my right hand guy, and he was teaching my Tuesday and Friday beginners class, and he just has always done a good job, and he's always wanted to open his own gym. And so what kind of happened was I said, okay, look, Logan, you can. You have my blessing. You can go open your own gym. He lives in Jerseyville. That was kind of the reason that he wanted to do it. You can do that, or I can open a gym and you can run it. You would still, because I know that's like with jiu-jitsu, it's such like a camaraderie thing that like going and opening your own school not only is scary because you're taking a financial risk, it's scary because you're like, but I'm leaving all my friends, And,
Oh yeah.
and so like, you don't have to do that because you will still be our team. It's just be an extension of our team.
Yeah, man. Just create an affiliate system.
And so that was, like we took the risk and we did it. And obviously, like we're only 2 weeks in, so we don't know how things will go.
Yeah.
But I really am confident in, mainly just like having the right person there. I
Yeah.
think that's huge.
Oh, dude, absolutely. I mean, when you're running a business, like as a business owner, yeah, the people, or just anywhere in your life, right? The people that, you kind of allow to be around you will dictate your whole kind of everything, really. Your whole well-being, like the success, everything. Like the energy is
that's
important.
that's like leadership really is saying like, okay, I trust you to do something.
Yeah.
And knowing that you're putting your trust in the right people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Have you read that are you familiar with Jocko Willink?
Yeah.
Have you read his new book, Dichotomy of Leadership?
I have not.
It's a really good one.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm listening to it on Audible.
I like Audible, like audiobooks more because I'm in the car a lot, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it's just easier for me to it's probably wrong to read in the car, so it's much easier for me to just listen.
Yeah, it definitely. Do you listen to podcasts as well?
Yes.
What are some of your favorites?
the Tim Ferriss show is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy that. I really actually like the podcast Stuff You Should Know. Do you know that?
No.
So Stuff You Should Know, it's a really big podcast, but they started like 10 or 11 years ago. They're in Atlanta, Georgia, and they work for HowStuffWorks.com.
Okay.
And it is literally like they will just dissect articles, and they have a really good back and forth. They're both pretty funny, and it will just be how beekeeping works. And
wow.
It's it's just like that's more of like of a time wasting podcast. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need those like sometimes you get so focused on business, and every podcast about leadership and business and stuff, and you just get so hyper focused on stuff. You need stuff that relaxes you too.
Yeah.
100%.
They say it's better to read fiction before bed.
Yeah, I've heard people say that too.
Yeah.
And so I usually don't read before bed. That's not, because usually I get home from the gym at about like 7:30 or 8, and then I eat and I want to go to bed.
Yeah.
I don't stay up very late at all.
Yeah. You early riser?
I'm pretty early riser.
What time you wake up?
It depends. So today it was 4:45.
Okay.
My first client was at 5:45. It's one of the few mornings that I work, like personal training wise. But still, it's in the like 6-ish. My wife wakes up pretty early too, and that wakes me up, and we both just go to bed early. So
yeah,
it's not hard to wake up early when you.
No, not at all. I mean, it's that simple, actually. If you want to wake up earlier, go to bed earlier.
It is.
Yeah,
it really is.
It really, really is, dude. Well, dude, we're right at an hour, I think, close to it. Dude, it's been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
I really appreciate you taking this time.
Yeah, man.
I want to turn the floor over to you, though, because obviously you're doing a lot of cool things. And if there's anything like you want to plug, sponsors, how can people get a hold of you if they do want to follow you, or whatever the case may be?
If you want to kind of follow me and my journey, I would say just follow me on Instagram. The Josh McKinney is my Instagram handle. I post, a lot of silly, fun, usually jiu-jitsu related things on there. And if you want to come train at my gym, Headnod HQ or Headnod Training Center, Jerseyville. Either one, I try to have a presence at. Obviously, my headquarters is where I'm generally at, but I try to always show up for, Headnod Training Center, and then just always try to thank my sponsors, Leo Optics Sunglasses, and Fuji BJJ. The two guys have always really been with me, always really helped me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can dig it. And you guys always have a really cool open mat, right? On Sundays, right?
Every Sunday we do a 10:30 open mat, and we'll usually have 3 or 4 gyms like represented from all around. We've had, I want to say, like 14 different gyms represented one time at our open mat. Yeah, and it's like, I always feel like people say like, oh yeah, we have open mat, and it's not really open to people. And even maybe if it is, you're maybe treated a little bit differently at it and stuff. But like, I have students that will be like, oh man, I really like that John guy. Where does he train at? And I'm like, he trains here, man. Like, because it's just like that open mat is just so diverse, and you're so used to everybody you roll with, like, doesn't train with us.
Yeah.
And so it's really, like, that was something that was really big for me for jiu-jitsu, was just like, I love training with different people. You know what I mean? It's just, I think it's really helpful for me and my guys. And so always try to get people to come in and, to do open mat.
Yeah, I mean, I can dig that for sure. I think that's really what it's about, man. I think that it's about just growing the community. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a very like old school way of thinking of jiu-jitsu where it's almost like this gang mentality. It's like gym versus gym, and it's like, I'm not really about that. It's like, yeah, we compete against each other and stuff like that at like local tournaments, but at the end of the day, it's just about like growing the jiu-jitsu community as a whole.
It is. And like, you have people compete against each other. Like, I mean, that Fuji tournament that there was a few months back, I'm coaching against my coach Kyle, and I'm coaching against like Ezra, who I'm friends with. Or, and so you have that, and like I don't think it has to be like a us against you thing in jiu-jitsu. Mainly, especially like in the area, people like act like it's a business thing. Like, oh man, well, we can't associate with other people because of, because it would hurt our business or something like that. Like, dude, in the area, there's 1 million people, and there's like 10 jiu-jitsu gyms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's plenty for everybody.
Yeah. And like, you're, if you really, if like if you need that, if like you're like no gym can be 45 minutes away from me, or
Yeah.
something like that, like man, you're in a lot of trouble if that's what you need, like to
Yeah, you really
to have
are.
success.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, because the community is just better off the more people that's in it.
It is, and it like that produces. I feel like that makes your guys better. Like I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
I notice with my guys, like, you know, everybody knows the same game, and they're all learning from. I do have different instructors, but most of them are learning directly from me, and I try to give always the best answer. I always try to be helpful, but it's always my perspective and my answer.
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to just run into like really similar. They're going to have the same game as me. Maybe not exactly, but they're going to do a lot of the same things. And so I always notice like when my guys go over to my coach Kyle's gym, I always pass the guard standing. That's just like how I pass. I just feel like I can pressure better that way. My coach Kyle passes off his knees, and he used a lot of pressure passing.
Mm-hmm.
And my guys, I can always tell are just like, especially the first couple times going over, like so shocked by that. Like, wait, nobody's standing up. All my guards require somebody to be standing up.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's so much better for them to experience that in a gym than pay a bunch of money to go compete and then realize, oh, hey, I've only gotten one perspective. I'm missing this.
Yeah, and then it'd be like a single elimination tournament.
Exactly.
And, then you're done. It's like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I just paid like $80 for it.
Dude, I've flown to California to lose in the first round.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh.
That's a common story.
Yeah, and it's like that sucks. Like I didn't, I just didn't. I wish I would have done something different, but I don't know what I should have done different.
Yeah, yeah. I can dig it, man. Well, dude, you're doing a good job at it, so keep doing your part, man.
All right, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. Till next time.